Let's dive right into it. Yesterday was a hell of a day in the market. It ended kind of poorly, if you ask me, but it was a great day. I know at the way end of our show, I briefly brought up how Plug was one of the pre-market movers. That stock ended up exploding at the open. I actually got in at pre-market at 598, and then it ended up trading all the way up to 7. I didn't hold on to it all the way up to 7. I sold it on the way up, but then I actually shorted it at 7 and shorted it down to 675, and then added more and got it all the way down to 655. And I was really just playing it back and forth all day with Plug. It was pretty cool watching the technical charts actually work on that, where it really was like clockwork watching that stock. Once it got up to 7, show serious resistance, couldn't break through 7, tried, and then started to stumble back down to 675-ish, where it showed more resistance, and then down to 655, where it ultimately closed the day. And then I don't know if you guys saw this morning, but they got an upgrade to 14, which would be double where they're at now. So again, they're popping pre-market. I've been watching them all morning. I mean, they got all the way up to 740 and then came all the way back down, and now they're trying to figure out what they're doing. It's kind of been trading in between.
Yeah, we got up to 752.
What happened there? I thought you thought that thing was done.
Well, it just shows you never know.
And Mike, basically,
selling.
I think
there was cluster selling by the insiders, so I don't think they knew what was going on.
No, they never do. They're wrong almost every time. They upgrade, a stock goes down. I'm literally playing the exact opposite of these idiots. They say something. I'd be doing the same thing, making millions on television. You put together a script, people follow it, and then behind closed doors, you're going the opposite.
I also think there's something to be said for whether you're using Robinhood, E-Trade, just doing research on investing.com, whatever website you use, the way you're able to sort companies at the beginning of the day by the most active trading stocks and volume. And it kind of gives you a handle on which stocks are going to just be really active in the day, whether it's going to be on the upside or the downside. And that's where Plug yesterday, like at the way end of our show, popped right into that radar. And there's so many people that I think are looking at that, whether they're trying to day trade and get back and forth between short and long, or whether they're just trying to chase these stocks up on the way up. And that's what they're looking for, is these pre-market movers that are really going to move. Like this morning, just pulling it up right now. I mean, Dell, that'll be an interesting stock to watch. I didn't really tune in too much on their earnings. I saw that they were featured yesterday at the close on CNBC. It looks like they're having a nice pop pre-market.
Well, yeah, they're dishing off. They're trying to get out of a big thing with their business. That's what that was about. I think
they own a tech company that they're trying to maybe sell.
They're just trying to figure out how to get their stock up because it's been pretty dead weight for a while.
So right now, Plug is the #1 top traded volume stock that's up on the day, not total volume. You have companies that are trading higher volume, and the website I've been using for it, I go back and forth between investing.com and Market Chameleon, just because for whatever reason they kind of show different things on there. But if you go to stocks and then you go to pre-market trading, it breaks it down between most active, gainers, and then decliners. And I like to sort it out by volume. So I'll just put the up arrow on the volume, and then it shows the ones with the highest volume all the way down. And, again, Plug, really high volume stock today. And then there's obviously a bunch of these penny stocks on there, which I don't like to mess with personally, but I've been realizing more and more these last couple of weeks that this is a really interesting tool to use if you're trying to day trade at all, to determine which stocks are going to give you the action where you actually could day trade. Curious, Bob, I'll throw it to you. Do you do that at all, or what are you really looking at today?
Well, I do it a little bit because, things have gotten to that point where you could actually make some money using those type of stocks. I still prefer to have a few names that I always deal in and stay away from new names. But, Plug is an old name. So I got an order out there right now to sell stock at 729. I don't know if I'm going to get off.
Oh, you'll get off.
Maybe, maybe not.
Oh, you're back in plug.
No, I'm trying to short it right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, it is a big short interest stock. It's hard to borrow. So the short sellers are obviously getting nervous with the action in it. And that drives in more buyers as they cover.
Well, one thing
we need to find a new plug. I'm tired. I have too many people hitting me up saying they bought plug. I have zero interest in it. I hate when everyone I know is in something. It makes me. I like being the opposite.
Well, one of the things about trading, and everyone always mentions this whenever you read about day trading, is you gotta not feel like you're missing something, because then you'll force yourself to do stuff that you really don't want to do because you feel like you're not involved.
Yeah, exactly. I like creating the scene, not being there late to the party. I like building the party.
Definitely. So, Mike, there is something to be said, and this is a strategy I've been doing a lot over the last 6 days, and so far it's been working well. And I'm really careful with it and set very, very strict stop limits. So if I'm wrong on the direction, I just completely get out of it with all my emotions aside. But an interesting strategy, especially in this market, has really been watch for these stocks that are popping with no rhyme or reason. And at this point, you could almost throw a plug into that and wait until that hype dies out, which is usually pretty quickly. And then if you get on the other side of the trade, those things start going down really, really quickly. And then you could watch them break through their different levels. And if you're on the short side, you could kind of see how panic sets in for people that tried to chase it on the way up. And if you bought a stock when it's already up 25% and makes it up to 45 and then it starts dropping, people start getting out. And it's a major opportunity that I think, most people just the Robinhood traders can't do that. They're not set up to do it. So that is an interesting way to play the other side of it.
Case in point, if you take a stock that a lot of them were playing, it's called Translate Bio, and the symbol's TBIO. This stock traded 2 days ago at just about 16 and change. And I don't even know what the story was. The stock got up to 31 in the pre-market, 31.16 yesterday. And it actually traded a little higher than that, I think. But regardless, it then started trading down. It opened right around 25. This is yesterday now. Ran up to 27 and change on all the hype. Wow, the stock's up huge. I got to get in. And then it went down the rest of the day pretty much. I mean, it had a big drop to 20. It got down to 22, right around 22. Had a little bit of a rally at the close. Closed around 24 and a half. And it's rallied a little bit in the pre-market here. But everyone's going to be all over that stock today, one way or the other. That's going to be another one that is going to get a lot of activity.
And I mean, to add to that, just based on what's been happening with other charts that are similar to this, in my opinion, this stock's heading way down. And yeah, maybe it gets more pop along the way, but I get they had funding for something with the government regarding a vaccine. I get all that, but these stocks still don't necessarily deserve, 80 to 100% pops off of good news. That's just not how it normally goes. And that, even with Plug, that's a company that, they adjusted guidance slightly up yesterday. It wasn't anything crazy, and their stock goes up over 20%. It's not sustainable, and that's where everyone keeps talking about how the market's in this frenzy bubble. All these stocks that keep getting blown up eventually come right back down. You look at Hertz. That was another stock I was short yesterday. I'm not in it anymore. I'm probably done with it at this point. But I mean,
I doubt it. You'll be back in it.
But I mean, look at this chart, and you hear all the analysts coming out saying this stock's most likely a zero stock. And if anything, maybe it gets down to 70, 80 cents. You've got Carl Icahn, who sold off all of his positions at 79 cents. This has been an amazing short all the way from 5 and change all the way down. And if you've been in on that, it's been as big of a gainer as you can really get off anything. So I think as the market heats up more and more, there's starting to be more and more opportunities to do things like that. And I'm starting to think it's going to be a little bit harder to find winning stocks that continue to push up the momentum. Yesterday, Penn had such a fantastic day. I actually think at some point it's going to be up today. I had a buy order in last night that didn't end up hitting when it was down over 3%, which is a bummer because now it's down way less. But this is a stock I love day trading, and I'd be shocked if it doesn't pop today. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts on Penn after that massive run that it had yesterday.
I think DraftKings is more likely to have money funnel in from Penn today. From the news you just saw something come out about their gaming app with gambling and the MLB season. New Jersey just gave the green light for them. So that and the MLB season being a thing now, I expect a lot of this dumb Davey day trader money to immediately go into DraftKings today, kind of this ping pong, where I'm expecting DraftKings to be trading probably at $40 by the end of the day.
But what's interesting about DraftKings, it got a lot of action post-market last night and pre-market. It got up to 39.55 this morning.
Yeah, it'll go above that. There's a lot of I've had some texts last night and this morning that makes me pretty pumped, where I just know there's a lot of dumb money funneling in there in the next hours.
Look, you gotta look at it because part of my huge bull case, and I've been big on DraftKings from day one, but part of what I've really liked about them is the fact that right now sports aren't happening. So it's a great speculative stock for things to get back to normal, because there's no doubt sports are going to come back, and they look to be the company that's going to benefit the most from that. I know we were talking about this a little, but are you a little concerned that as things actually come back, people will start to look to take profits so they're not?
No, I think the exact opposite. I've been in the camp of needing to see things coming back to jump hard on that. And I think that stock, when you hear whether it's a vaccine or us not needing a vaccine, with where things are going to be heading, with how quickly the pandemic has expedited federally legal gaming, I think this thing doubles from that news. If anything, I think it's been held back from what it could really do here. Like if we had a vaccine right now, DraftKings is trading over $50 as we speak. So I think when you really break down the dynamics, there's a lot of unknowns that have kept more money out of it still, even though it's run up a lot.
Yeah, the only thing you have to consider with that is there's a big gaming group, and a lot of money has flowed out of the Las Vegas Sands and Wynn into the DraftKings.
Well, yeah, for good reason. You have young kids that are where you have to love DraftKings. All these people, even our age, like who these days compared to 10 years ago, going to Vegas, sure, it's appealing. But what's awesome is being able to make a bet like you're getting an Uber from your phone, which was not even heard of when we were turning 21, when you think about it. So I think I think young people now, even on Robinhood and that are like the cult followers of Portnoy, you're going to see way more just on-demand bets where people aren't even wanting to get on a plane. They're just doing stuff with their own friends.
Yeah, but you're talking about if they get a vaccine. As soon as
even without a vaccine, I think the on-demand culture we're in, and just the instant gratification of being able to possibly make money off action, there's no friction with that. You don't need to go somewhere to experience that.
I think that at the end of the day, people want to be at the pool at Wynn or somewhere in Vegas, hanging out and making bets while they're looking at pretty women in the pool.
Yeah, great, but that's awesome, and that's still being done from the phone. They're not going. They're going to just look at pretty women on their app. So it doesn't.
I'm telling you, it's not the same. You guys.
Well, no, it's not the same. What I'm getting at, DraftKings has way more reach. You can't bring a win pool girl around the world unless you have a really hot girlfriend that you're just bringing around with you. I'm getting at here. DraftKings, it's way more global.
Let's move on here. We got a question from one of our viewers about Madison Square Garden stock. I have it pulled up here, Bob. They want to hear your thoughts based on the chart.
Hold on, let me look at my chart. I have a hard time reading yours.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you got the 1 year moving average close to around 200 and the stock's down at 156. It looks like, if you ask me, a similar chart as USFD and Sabre and some of these stocks that look like maybe they're trying to get back on the bull run here after the dip, and maybe are like the last section of stocks to move higher. But curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, this is interesting because someone who's a big Ranger fan told me about Madison Square Garden stock when it got down to about 190. If you see the move where your arrow is right there, actually not the very bottom, but
190.
Yeah, do you see 190?
Yeah,
it's way below that.
No, it is now, but that's when I heard about it, and I really didn't feel like, why would I buy this? It's, it seemed way too early. But down here, it looks, from a fundamental point of view, maybe it's starting to get interesting. You start thinking about the vaccine, but 148.5 would be a double bottom. I would take a shot there if it gets back down there. And if it breaks, I would have a stop in there probably around, I don't know, maybe 145 and walk away from it. But it could get a nice double bottom. And, then you have real upside on any good news on a vaccine. But we all know what Madison Square Garden is, so how are they making money right now? Television rights? I'm sure they have a lot of money from TV.
I'm going to bring up Live Nation too.
What's up?
I'm going to bring up Live Nation too, because I feel like similar but different. Obviously, they have different things that they could pivot to, but Live Nation is the event company where, you buy tickets from them for big concerts, sporting events, and whatnot. And this is a stock I've just been following closely because it was
such a symbol down on Live Nation.
It's LYV.
LYV.
Yeah, it was such a great stock. Like if you
I like this chart. I like this chart better than Madison Square Garden. It looks like it's got a nice trend line. It's coming into the 50-day on the 1 year chart, which is 44.95. That's where I would like to own it. Right around 45.
There you go. Those are some good ones.
When you hear about this resurgence of Corona, pull up Honeywell, because I know that's something. I know Papa's been a Honeywell guy for a while. I think that stock, they cranked up their N95 mask production.
Well, you're thinking of Triple M, I think.
No, I'm not. I'm thinking of Honeywell.
Doesn't Triple M make the N95?
Well, yeah, but Honeywell started doing that with all this. So when you think about it, they're actually set up here, I think, for a nice rally from all this news.
Well, it's funny. I punched in Triple M at the same time, and the chart is very similar.
Well, you can. I think you can interchange those right now with this news. You can probably take advantage of a bit of upside on both those stocks when you think about how many new cases there are, and you're going to see people getting more masks. People might have ordered some, run out, maybe thought they didn't need as many as initially thought. I think masks are definitely here for the long run. So,
I think Triple M is more the mask play than Honeywell. I don't know what Honeywell's involvement is.
Honeywell started producing N95 masks.
Can they even do that? I thought it was.
They do it now. That's why I've been looking them up, and that's something they're up to. So that's something.
I actually was thinking about the masks today. I think within a couple of weeks, the U.S. is going to make them mandatory. Forget the politics and all that bullshit.
If I'm Trump's campaign manager, I'm literally pivoting and going hard with "Make America Great Again."
I agree with you.
That is branding. I don't know what
mask idea is absurd.
It's literally that team. He can easily pivot and win this in a heartbeat. He's been so dumb with his marketing lately. But yeah, I think this or 3M could be a good entry point going into this resurgence, which we know is happening, and it's clearly not. It hasn't hit the market yet, but it will.
Yeah, you kind of go, if they come up with a vaccine, they'll sell those stocks instantly. But until they,
I don't think so though. Even with the vaccine, that doesn't mean you think that just means people stop wearing masks.
No, not until they get the vaccine. At that point, they will.
Like you hear Adam Rafat say, that a vaccine doesn't mean that it all of a sudden everything is great.
No,
that's where I think people misconceive the notion. Like when I've talked to a couple doctor friends, vaccine, it doesn't mean it's going to be an absolute grand slam that works phenomenally.
Well, maybe we'll be like Asia, where people will just be wearing masks and it'll be the new norm.
Well, I think you're going to see natural people that already, like a percentage of the population, are going to stick with this mask thing, that are natural germaphobes or that we're trying to be triggered into that mode anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's something to think about.
And looking back at Plug here, I keep monitoring these pre-market movers to see if anything exciting pops up.
I love getting back in Plug after it falls back.
Well, I missed my short by 1 penny. It got up to 728 after our conversation, and it's backed off again.
Yeah, now it's at 715. I mean, this thing's moving pretty aggressively pre-market. Could be
a good day trade.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was saying, is that the stocks that trade with high volume are good day trades. Like I day traded this all day yesterday, and I don't think it's going to be the same type of day, but it could. And I saw this morning, I was watching the time and sales sheet tick by, and I had high limits placed in just to see if there was high movers going on. And there was somebody that was selling millions of shares or millions of dollars worth at 715.
Peter Tashman.
No, he wouldn't do that.
There was about 5 to 6 mil that was being unloaded. And I don't know if that's a significant amount. It seems like it's way more significant than the average amounts that you see back and forth, which are like $10,000 just changing hands all day long.
Just to change the subject to the real side of the market, we're looking at the market right now down about 180 on the Dow, and Apple is almost back to unchanged on the day. And that is still probably the best indicator for what's going to happen later. That stock came off probably $6 or $7 from the high yesterday. And I think people are really trying to figure out what the hell they do with their Apple, Microsoft positions, because it's becoming such a heavy weighting in people's portfolios. And, I don't know, we talked a little about options yesterday, but I think more and more people are going to be trying to hedge those positions over time here.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, even with tax implications aside, if you look at a stock and if it's run up, 100% in a year, which I might be exaggerating, but I don't think I am, at what point is it just too good to be true and you want to turn that digital numbers into hard cash?
At what point also do you not care about the gains and say, fuck it, I made a hell of a return here, I'm dishing this thing? Like when I look at Amazon, how much I've made on that in 3 months, sure, it's a great long-term anchor. Part of me is like, okay, am I being greedy here, just holding all of this right now and then waking up in 2 weeks and it's down 15%?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I mean,
like, Dad, what's your psychology around that, where you have a situation like you just bring up here with Microsoft and Apple? Does any part of you, and over the years, have you ever sold off parts of the position instead of doing options?
Yeah, what I like to do is, if I have any losses, I try to sell enough of, let's say, an Apple and counterbalance against the loss.
What if you don't have losses?
If you don't have losses, I rather try to use call options as a hedge rather than selling it off. because then you have the option later to buy back that option that you shorted if the stock continues to go through the roof, or let the stock go. And I like to do the options that are for the following year. So that way it's no tax consequence if I let the stock go.
I think that's a great strategy.
Year.
I think that's a great strategy, especially right now, because normally, not normally, but in the past, Dad's thrown that at me as a strategy when I'm like just got into a new stock as a way to possibly hedge it. Like I know I brought up Twilio a whiles back on here, but if you look at it now and you look at stocks that have run up to the point where you're asking yourself, okay, is this just starting to get too easy, which is normally a sign that maybe you're at the top, but at the same time, maybe it's not. Now it's interesting because you could probably get solid premiums if you're selling call options.
Yeah, huge premiums right now.
So let's pull one up for an example for our viewers here. For Apple, say, let's look at a January.
Well, I would look at I don't know if you could get that on yours, Dan, but the January, if you're trying to hedge the position, you would probably do like the Apple 360s for January 2021.
Yeah, but that's what I don't like as much, because then you're talking about basically wanting the stock to just stay around flat.
Well, what I'm saying is if you're really trying to hedge the position, if you want to take a risk that the stock's going to run up another 10%, you could look out at the 380s or something in that neighborhood.
Sorry, I don't know what just happened there.
So you want to go to options.
Yeah, I got to log back in. Just give me a quick second. I'll pull this up.
Hedging doesn't excite me. I've never enjoyed hedging, even when I used to sports bet a lot.
Well, the good thing about hedging with the options is you don't have to just let it ride out. You could always buy back the option.
I also look at it as like the way I'm kind of viewing it right now is an extra tool for swing trading. Like Mike, I know we've been talking about an example when I was like, get in Seattle Genetics when it was at like 150. I think it can run up to 175. Well, it would have been a great idea is when we loaded up on Seattle Genetics at 150, knowing that we were just trying to ride it to 175, selling call options at 175, because then we're collecting the premium and we're selling anyway because we already want to sell. And then if it doesn't go to 175, we're at least collecting the premium. If it does, double whammy, So that's, I'm going to pull up the Apple one now, but that to me, I keep thinking about it in the morning and then I just get busy and forget to like look into them. And I almost feel like now, I don't want to say that like I missed the chance, but when I was originally doing like the swing trading really, really hard, that's when, and still now, like if you're buying a stock for a swing trade and you think it's got 10% potential, and you want to sell it then when it goes up 10%. So
here I'm looking at the January 21s right now for Apple. They're trading around, they don't open for a while, but
38.
36 is the middle range right now. That's the 365s. And that gives you, pretty nice protection, 10% downside for the stock. And it gets you out somewhere around 400 based on the stock at 365.
So just to kind of spell this out for our viewers, what's happening here is if you were to do what he's talking about, and I just put buy, but you're going to want to sell, and you're basically trying to sell call options for January of 2021 at 365. That means one contract, which is 100 shares, so you at least need 100 shares to do this. You'd get paid $3,400 to commit to selling your shares of Apple if in January 15th of 2021, it's above 365. If it's below 365, you're just collecting the premium, which is this 3,400. And that's why Bob looks at it as a great hedge, because it's gone up so high.
And Dan, can you clarify for the users, everyone, you have to own in this position for every 100 shares is one. So for example, if you have 1,000 shares, you could do 10 options.
Exactly. And then you'd get paid 34 grand to just commit to selling those options. Obviously, the downside is if Apple runs up to 440, which it maybe will, but then you look at the 440, and this to me is where it's a little bit more interesting. Obviously, it's way smaller of a premium, but if you sell call options with a 440 strike price in January, you get 8 grand. If it gets above 440,
great.
At that point, are you kidding me? So,
and if it doesn't, you still get 8 grand.
Yeah, and then you're obviously keeping Apple. So it's just an interesting way to play it.
Yeah, but there's millions of ways to play options, but the main thing is you're trying to decide if you're going to sell the stock or hedge the stock. So if you're really thinking you're trying to sell the stock, the correct way to probably play it is to pick a strike price below where it's trading.
Definitely.
So in a case like that, if you're wanting to be a long-term holder of Apple, what Dan just highlighted probably makes way more sense, right? If you're not trying to get out of the stock.
No, because you're speculating then. You're not protecting your downside with what Dan's saying.
But Mike's saying if you want to be a long-term investor, regardless of what happens, meaning if Apple might go to 200 in the short term, but 20 years from now, you're still going to own it. Then I think
exactly. I'm talking about staying
my argument on that is, though, let's say you sold the 350s, you get 42 points, which gives you that much more protection. And if the stock is trading, let's say 350 in when it expires, you just cover the option at that point rather than let it go, and you still own the stock and you hedged it at the same time over those 6 months, and then you could put out the January 22s. So
I do like the Apple play of it. I think personally it'll be down from where it is now in January, just because of until the election dust.
Well, anyway, we could talk about this.
Yeah, we gotta wrap this up here. What are our picks of the day? I'll start. I'm gonna look to buy Penn somewhere, maybe where it is. Like I said, I think at some point today you'll see that stock back in the green. I think it could be a great day trading opportunity. I'd love to get it at 36.20. I don't know if it goes back down there. I'm gonna just kind of keep my eye on it. I think you could really possibly make a move with where it's at right now, because again, I think that stock's positive at some point today. So that's my pick of the day, but not immediately. I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna day trade it.
Yeah, I'll be day trading probably DraftKings today. I'm already long a ton for a swing trade, so I'm trying to time that well. And I'm also looking at Honeywell because I think I've been monitoring that stock for a while. This could be a good opportunity to get in.
Yeah, I'm looking at Goldman Sachs to add right now. I like the way it acts compared
to Wells Fargo.
I don't like it as much.
All right, well let's get it today, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.